So let's just jump right into it. A question we received was, can grief take you off the path? Ryan, have you ever seen that before? What's your insights?
Yeah, I mean, I live that one, but I think we need to define what we mean by on the path first, on the path and then off the path. Like in your in your experience of things, how would you define being off the path? Like, do you really end up off the path, or is it something that you just forget for a time? What's your take on it?
I mean, when we talk about the path, I define it as someone who's striving to be better and using meditation as an outlet or prayer, or that's the path. And so I think for us, I think the path is a little different. It, I don't think we're on a pathless land actually. But I think
Hmm.
for most beginners or people that are just living their life and striving on this path, it would just that's what it is. It's you trying to become better, to go into your mind and to figure out who you are and or figure out their spirituality. Now, if can grief take you off that for a moment or forever? I think it's circumstantial. I think it's dependent on the person, and life can be a mystery. Grief is such a huge shock in the body that it'll definitely take you off the path for a second if you're striving to be better, or it'll do the opposite. And may have been the most beneficial part of your path. Like for you, Ryan, you lost your father, and that was in the midst of, I think, a huge transition state for you for really integrating your practice. And how did that affect you?
Yeah, I remember at the time I was going to these um, well uh, at the time I remember we were training with Bruce, and so we were doing a lot of Taoist meditation, and it was pretty regimented, our focus at the time. And I think I had just that yeah earlier that year I did the 90-day retreat, and then I did a month in Burma too, so I was getting pretty serious about it. And yeah, I remember after my dad died, I just said, no, nothing matters, like none of this means anything. So grief has that, it has that effect of like, because of how painful or overwhelming it is, you shut everything out through meaninglessness or through statements like nothing matters, which are beliefs. You have no idea if things matter or not. So yeah, but I found grief has that particular effect that because it's so painful, mm, it leads to a kind of decision about life, and then that decision can be something that takes you away from your practice, or takes you away from um, the search. We could call it that, because suddenly it's not seen as important anymore. Or there's ideas that we can have, these kinds of interpretations in the mind, things that sound like, well, I was doing my spiritual practice and I was praying, and so this wasn't supposed to happen. There's a common thing that people assume, that if you do X, Y, and Z, you're entitled to some kind of result. You're not entitled to anything ever, under any circumstance. So there's zero relationship um, between, you know doing a lot of meditation and then expecting some kind of uh, particular external thing to happen or things to go how it is that we want them to go. It could be the exact opposite, actually. The more that you meditate, the less things go the way you want them to go. But that's actually part of the learning process, is helping us become free of our preferences. That's really the point. But yeah, I mean, grief can take us off the path if we let it, right? And if the path is defined as, our alignment with our purpose or our dharma, then there can definitely be a forgetting or an obscuration of that because of grief, for sure. I don't think that people, I don't think that people ever, fall out of grace, right? They never, or at least it doesn't seem that things really happen outside uh, the view of the soul or of the order. Um, but you can get lost and at least think and really believe that you're off track. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a common thing that people have a connection to their sense of purpose when they're young. Like around the time that we met, we started doing all this practice together. That's usually like the prime time for a person's, um, when they feel like most connected to their calling and they haven't been beaten down by the world yet. It's often uh, they start with that and then they go through the conditioned reality, and then in the midlife crisis, when the midlife crisis hits, it returns them to um, their original purpose. That's something that that's something that happens pretty often. I see this with a lot of students. They have some kind of awakening, some kind of opening in their early 20s, and then they get busy with life, and then midlife comes back around, or midlife comes around, and then they reflect on that original calling.
and I remember Nahua Chin, a famous Buddhist teacher. He mentioned from 20 to 30 is relationships. From 30 to 50 is your job. From 60 onward, or from 50 onward, is your spirituality. It's kind of how the normal trajectory of a human and their path. Fortunate for us, we start off, or could be unfortunate, depending on what part of life you look at it. But we started off young, and through our experience and being monks and doing these various retreats, but still being young, it was, certain things we were very naive about, or we didn't understand, or there's a misinterpretation. And as we got older, and once life beat us down, and once we had some life experience, the view on practice and spirituality changed a lot. I remember having this discussion when I was trying to become a samanin, like a baby monk. I think it was
Novice,
19.
yeah.
Yeah, novice monk. I remember I met a guy who was going to become a monk too, and I was just talking with him, and I asked him why, oh, like how long have you done this before? And he's like, oh, I've done it a couple times. And he asked me, so why are you doing it? And I said, oh, I want to enlightenment and I want to have my third eye open. He's like, yeah, I hear you. I let go of those things a long time ago. And then right after that conversation, I get on the call with Ryan and I tell him, dude, can you believe this guy? He's not chasing enlightenment and he's become a monk. Like what? Like just judging this guy.
What is he even doing? Yeah.
Yeah. And then, come to find out, I understand. I understand them. I understand them. Life beat me up. We all go through grief. We all go through these experiences. But if you're striving diligently, having faith in your cultivation, even in the grief, there's a learning, there's a teaching. As hard as it can be, I know, but you learn through it, and you get to see the light, the light of grace that'll provide you with the knowledge that you need to fight and to overcome the grief that will be on your path, because everyone's going to go through it. It's like that story with the Buddha, that lady who had a baby or a kid that passed away and went up to the Buddha asking, um, "Can you please resurrect him? Can you make him living again?" And the Buddha said, "Sure. Just I want you to go to each house, knock on each house, and ask them. You need to grab a grain of rice. But before you get that grain of rice, you have to ask them, has anyone passed in this house? Has anyone died? Then bring all the grain of rice back." As she was knocking on each door, asking, has anyone passed? Has anyone passed? Every family member, every family she came across, someone has passed away. Someone they knew, someone they loved. She came back to the Buddha and said, I understand. And that knowledge in that moment, that realization, we all get to that point where we understand one of the foundations of life is grief and suffering. And it can definitely take you off the path, but I think this is where the next point should be, is the faithfulness, and your where your heart is. That'll really create this gracefulness in your life. I think with you, for example, I saw you go through grief with your dad passing away, and I know how hard it was, but you eventually maneuvered and learned, and look where you are. You know,
Right.
you've strived on to still practice. And I know it was tough, man. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, but yeah, it made me everything for sure. Yeah, I have a lot of students that come by and they're like, yeah, the one thing uh about me or about him is that he's tough. Like he's tough. So yeah, so I got that from from really enduring those things. I mean, the unfortunate, it's like a double-edged sword. It's fortunate, and it's unfortunate in the same vein, which is that your pain threshold gets so high that kind of ordinary things don't bother you as much. But then the like that's a you could consider that a good thing in a way. Like it gives you a very large perspective. You're like, oh, actually, mm, most of our concerns are about meaningless affairs. So it does give you that vantage point. But then the unfortunate aspect too is that uh, because of the intensity of the pain, there's like can be very deep forms of violent reactivity. For example, so like on one hand, it makes you invincible, and on the other, it creates a demon inside you. Yeah, like it gives you an angel and a demon at the same time. The one angel is indifference or equanimity, and the other angel is rage or sadness or whatever, or the demon is rage or sadness. So I think all the big traumas are like that, and I think with one of the things with grief is like any of the major afflictions or major losses. I think grief is probably the worst. Um, because most people are okay with, or not okay necessarily, but you lose your business, that sucks. You lose all your money, horrible. You lose your health, extremely difficult. But the one thing people will choose over anything is the people they love. You know, you'd give your arm for your dad or whatever. So when that, yeah, to have that ripped from you, whether it's like a parent or a kid or a spouse, yeah, it's just like it's a very deep level of pain. And the lessons there are, I think, the most important. I mean, one of the lessons with grief, whether it's like with a partner or with a pet, for example, it becomes clear that like this other being's existence is not about you. And I think that's one of the big lessons, that it's not about you. It's not about what you want. It's not about what you think is right. It's not about the way that you need it to be. Because life will show you again and again, um, that it's really its way, not your way. Yeah. If we all had the choice, nothing would ever die, right? We would all choose for things to never die. Um, but that's not the agenda. That's not the plan. So it's like we have this thing where we're like obsessed with preventing death and staying young or whatever. Our culture's obsessed with youth and appearance, and we all know inside it's fake. We do. We know it's fake. We know how absurd it is to expect that things won't die, but we still expect that things won't die. Because I think that's what it means to be a human, to believe in things that can't possibly be.
I
Like
think of the I think of the four witnesses
four witnesses.
or the four things that Buddha witnessed or before he became
Yeah, yeah,
ascetic.
yeah. I think it was he saw a monk, he
Hmm.
saw a sick person, um, he saw a
So,
dead person. What was the other one?
an old man.
Yeah, he saw an old man. Yeah,
And the that's the reality that we all go through. And it what you're describing too is a bit of a how humans control, and we love to control. I mean, you can plan out your whole entire day, your whole entire week. Does it ever go 100% according to plan? And if it does, that's a blessing because it went according to plan. We and just because we can control little things here and there, that doesn't guarantee us anything. It's just momentary blessings, I would call it. And it's just like you said, it's part of our culture to try to control our looks, to try to control not dying. And I think all these distractions that we have and influence prevents us from acknowledging that universal truth, which is we all get sick, we all get old, and we all die. And there's people that are striving to understand why. But this culture that we have prevents that last one, prevents us from striving to gain insight. And once you take that initiation and you strive to do the work, you realize the sadness in it And because it's the truth. The truth is all your loved ones will die, get sick, and get old. And the other day I was practicing and it felt as if I started to understand that viscerally of the the removal of the attachment of my friends and family. And I was crying. And it's not a way to it's not detaching myself lovingly. It's not about that. What came up was you have to kill your friends and family mentally, but keep them in your heart always.
Mm.
Because if you strive on to still hold on to these people, it'll you're going to continue to suffer. And that's mental attachment. You're going to continue to suffer. Again, if you want to get esoteric, part of the bardo is if you do not let go even of your family members within the bardo, Tibetan Book of the Dead bardo, you're going to have a difficult time transitioning because you're not going to be with the same family as you go into your new body, wherever you go when you reincarnate. But it's the fundamental truth that you don't have control. These people will die. You'll get sick. You'll get old. And part of the process is being an loving equanimity within it and understanding that. But then it's obviously painful. You know, it's painful going through those things.
Right. Yeah, I've said many times the saddest truth of all of it is that things change. Yeah, I mean, death is just death and aging are ultimately just forms of change. But yeah, so with you, I mean, you were there when you actually watched my dad die. Was was that the first time? Was that the first and last time you've seen someone die?
No, I've the first person I've ever seen die, I think I was 10 or 11, and it was my great grandmother.
Hmm.
And it was really funny because I remember she died of cancer and she was at my aunt's house and we all knew she was going to pass away and all her family members were there and my cousins. And I remember when she had passed away, I saw all the adults, they started crying. And at that moment, I just didn't understand. I knew she died, but everyone started crying, and I was like, I guess I need to cry. So I started faking my tears because I didn't know what else to do, you know? I, and that was my reaction to death was I copied what everyone else was doing.
Hmm.
The second person that I saw pass away was your dad, you know, and seeing his final breath was a eye opener, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I've never seen the final breath of a person ever since. Yeah, the shows and the movies. I remember I was watching Grey's Anatomy or something, and on the yeah in the episode the person's moment of death happened on the inhalation. Like they inhaled and then like they flatlined, and I said there's a bunch of people in the room, and I was like, that's inaccurate. That's not how it goes. You flatline after an exhale, not on an inhale. And then everyone was like, oh shit.
Oh, yeah. And then I remember the last person I saw was I was responding to an incident on the freeway, and it was a motorcycle accident. and I, pulled over, got out because I'm an EMT, right? And so when I was seeing this guy, I'm not going to describe to you how badly he was, um,
Right.
but yeah, he was gone. Bef Prior to that, when I saw the whole accident happen, this was my mind mentally. Hell yeah, we're gonna save this guy. We're gonna help him. Yes, let's get it. We're gonna help this guy. I was all adrenaline, and I get there and I'm like,
He's dead.
yeah, there's nothing we can do. And
Wow.
and so and seeing his blankless stare was, it's still embedded in my mind.
Mm.
Like his body was there, but he wasn't. And so
Wow.
it's a very interesting thing because even the monks in Thailand, they're allowed to go into the hospitals or those places like morgues and see
Yeah.
the meditate on people that are dead, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
so
they're able to do contemplation of the decay. Yeah.
and it's just it hits you right in front of your face. It's like, yeah, this is it. I mean, I've I don't know. I guess for me, I'm a little different. Maybe because I'm a little desensitized to death. It hurts
Mm.
me seeing an animal pass away than a human. Um,
Mm.
but maybe that's because I'm a first responder and I'm a little desensitized by it.
I don't know. It depends on to me it depends on the kind of, yeah. If it's like videos online of people being killed, I still have a pretty, I'm like, oh God. Yeah. I still have a pretty bad reaction. I wouldn't say bad reaction, but you're just having your morning coffee and then someone's brains get blown out. And you're like, oh shit. Okay. So here the day begins.
Well, here's the thing for me
Terrible.
when if those videos pop up, I actually this is how my mind is. Okay, if a person gets shot, what do we do? Okay, so there's a hole right there. We're gonna put a hemostatic dressing on it. Then what's the next thing? Okay, he got shot. His air there's air pressure going into his lungs. It's gonna collapse his lungs. Okay, we need to put a dressing over it. Block that hole. So I'm like EMT mode when I watch this. It's like, how can I save this person?
Yeah, yeah. That's how a first responder, yeah, that definitely makes sense. But I think, you know, back to grief, um, a lot of us have a sense of it, like when we're with our parents, and then we just consider for a moment like how old they are now. Like makes you cry if you just think about it for long enough, you know? So yeah, I think grief teaches us ultimately that the big and major processes that are underway are beyond our control. I don't think everything is, your health is in your control, but you know the rate of decay is something that can only be mitigated. Yeah, but it's interesting to, like comparing, and maybe this is the case, like comparing American culture to Mexican culture or American culture to Thai culture. I think Thai culture in the more, I don't know, last 20 years has become more Western superficial, plastic surgery and all this stuff. But what's interesting in Thai culture is that um, spiritism is intrinsic to the culture. I think this is a thing in Mexico as well. The idea. um, the importance of dreams and death and the spiritual aspect of life is really embedded in Thai culture. Like it's normal, for example, that families would discuss dreams at breakfast. Like you just ask each other what you dreamt about and what people thought that meant. Yeah, like my grandma shares all these wild stories about things that happened in the old days in Thailand. I think the anthropologists say that Thailand is the most um, ghost obsessed culture in the world. Like if there's a scale for like cultural obsession with ghosts, Thailand's like at the top of the scale because like everyone's superstitious and afraid of ghosts, you know. So on one hand, there's superstition, but then on the other hand, there's more, you know, like in Western in yeah, in many Western hospitals, it'd be considered strange, you know, to have certain may be considered strange to have certain um, rites for the body as it's passing away, or like if it was the body of the teacher, for example, that it be left in someone's house for 3 days. You know, this kind of thing is like something that some medical staff would like look at you weird for requesting or for
Yeah.
doing, you know, but in Thai culture, Indian culture, Mexican culture, these types of things are, you know, very commonplace. So it's it's part of like being part of a culture that's been alienated from death, really alienated from death.
Yeah, like going back to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, one of the things they do in Tibet is you have the body in the household for a certain amount of days before it gets cremated. And
Right.
so, because then a monk comes over and tries to help the spirit that just passed on transition smoothly. And the position he's laying, they actually move the body to be positioned in the same way that the way the Buddha passed away with his, arm like this laying down. And so, yeah, there's so many cultures that acknowledge death, acknowledge spiritualism. And like you said, we're not so aware of that here. It's even like my favorite comic, Norm Macdonald said it, where he said, "We have all these things to entertain us to prevent us from acknowledging death.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an entertainer, and I'm meant to make you ignore death." So it's fascinating. I think once you pierce through the practice of meditation and you come to realize you're you're almost learning to transition as part of practice. You're learning
Right.
to die, and because you start to be able to let go because you're not going to hold on to anything when you pass on. Your love for people, the good karma you've done, the bad karma, but that's not what we see. It's an exchange that was unseen that moves on, but all of our attachments, all everything becomes annihilated. And so when we practice, and once you pass on or on the process, that transition becomes easier because you're killing yourself almost mentally, so to
Right.
speak, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. That's true. If you only had a if you only had a year to live, what would you do, or how would you live differently? If for sure if you got a mandate, like God appeared and said, "Hey, you only have a year." How would you how do you think you would move through life differently, and what do you think you would do different?
I think obviously spend time with my loved ones more intimately. Um, whether that's, I don't know, just spending more time with the loved ones and doing more, going to temple more. Um, and then I feel like meditation would be a lot easier, to be honest. If I put myself in that mind, yeah, like, oh, I can let go. It sucks. It's a reality, but I think there's a like unlocking mechanism that I'm gonna die. So don't get me wrong. I mean, I probably experienced death hundreds of thousands of times. I just, but
Don't remember it at the
yeah,
moment.
I just don't remember. So, so I, I obviously it'll be hard too. You don't want to. Death is difficult for anyone, but I think able to, if I'm able to let go of things that I have in this life so far, I think death becomes has will become easy.
Mm,
And I've seen stories of my family and what they saw when a person dies. Like I have a story where my uncle who passed away, he there's a bunch of people in the room. He was a very faithful man. And the moment that he was about to pass on, he was in a coma. He wasn't waking up. But the moment before he passed, he opened his eyes and he smiled like this. And he started moving his head, looking around the hospital room with this big smile on his face. Closes his eyes and he died.
wow.
And so this is why I have a lot of faith in my practice because whether I don't care whether you're a Christian, a Catholic, a Buddhist, a Hindu, I don't care. I think having that faith will 100% help you in your transition on. I think it makes things easier. Like, there is something.
Hmm.
It's not a void.
Yeah, how would you define faith?
I think so there's two types of faith. There's maybe there's three stages of faith. The first stage is once I pick up a practice and I start doing it, I'm trying to see and figure out and to get my foot in the door. It's like, with any start of anything, you're learning how to adjust to it. Once that adjustment period begins, fully integrates with you, then it becomes the second stage of faith, which is okay. I see the results, and I have faith in this teacher, this lineage, and these angels or whatever. But there is this sense of ego still there, which is this is my practice. It may be better than others. I've seen it work. I'm going to
Mhm.
convince people of it. And that's not the true faith. Grab Dorje, third, I think second or third statement, um, basically summarizes it as your faith should be beyond faith. It's not even, you don't
Yeah,
even call it faith.
he calls it confidence,
Yeah.
confidence and self-liberation. Yeah,
And so it's it's like, the sun is there, I have a shirt on. You don't acknowledge yourself wearing a shirt all day. You don't acknowledge the sun being there all day. That's
right.
true faith. That's because you viscerally have experienced it. You have truth knowledge. It wasn't this knowledge you read from a book and you have this connection, but it hasn't really been experienced. Like when people say they've talked to God, I don't know what that means to them, but they have faith. But those that do not need to convince me of it, but have visually experienced that, that's faith. Me and what I've seen in my practice, I don't need to convince people. I don't care to. Doesn't matter.
Mm.
I just that's the confidence that Grav Dorje was talking about. That's faith.
Yeah, I see faith as like a process, but also um, yeah, I would say like it's a process, it's a state, and then it's also an energy. Like it's a actual phenomena. I mean, it's an enlightenment factor, um, at least in the case of Buddhism. I think faith as a process is about the surrendering of doubt and the surrendering of thinking that we know, being open to the truth that maybe what it is that we have faith in is correct. So yeah, faith as a process is this continual um, surrender of doubt and judgment and this discriminating nature or discriminating function in the mind. And then faith as a state is what you're talking about. Yeah, when you actually arrive at like faith as a fruition is a very specific thing. You know, the power of faith and faith as that enlightenment factor is referring to both, right? It's referring to the development of it, but also the fruition. But yeah, it's like yeah, I feel like if you could touch faith, what you would feel is redemption and love. Yeah, like if it was something that you could give to another person, it would include that in a way.
Yeah, it's like a muscle, right? It's like you said, it's a process. And if you're gonna grow an orange tree, you acknowledge that it's gonna become an orange tree. You don't know whether it's gonna die, if it's gonna get poison, if an animal is gonna come and eat the plant before it grows. You have to have faith in the process that eventually, because I'm taking care of this plant, because I'm giving it the right nutrients, that it's going to fruit into this beautiful tree, and it's going to provide me with the right nutrients back, because that's what faith does. The more I give it, the more it's going to give back. That's the whole point. The earth, samsara, is like a mud. It's just dirty. Energetically, it's muddy. But if a person is striving on this path, they're like a glowing beam in the mud. And your lineage, the angels, God, whoever you believe in, are going to give, are going to give and provide and to help you along the path because they can see. And so it's always this exchange, which is a beautiful thing.
I remember you used to say that when you were a little kid, you would carry around your Bible and you just really loved Jesus. So what's the difference between the faith and love you had for God as a kid compared to the faith and love for for God and the path that you have now? Was a difference? Would you say that as a kid it was more powerful in a way and that it was more innocent, or would you say not really? That now is deeper than it was back then.
As a kid, it was definitely innocent, but it was like it was this weird connection I had. I was just, like I was really motivated by Jesus. I wanted
Mm,
to be like him actually as a kid. That was that's why I carried it and I always read it. And it was a baby Bible, but it was only the New Testament, so I only read and I had pictures, and reading it constantly. I was like, wow, I love this guy so much. And there was a purity to it. By the time I was in high school, I forgot about all of that.
mm.
I didn't even think love was real. Move on forward to where I am now. There is this sense of purity and innocence, but it's more direct. It's more direct and intentional. They should have both.
Mm.
Because with that intention, it'll provide you with maybe you need faith in this direction, maybe for career, and they'll help you with that. Maybe it's something eternal. It's much more intentional, or even like in your practice. It's not because if you're just fully innocent, that's cool. But now it's innocence with being intentional. It the energy differs a lot more. It's
Yeah,
a
you have
ground.
discernment. You have discernment now, obviously.
Yeah,
So,
discernment is more grounding. Less being like this goes back to the beginning of this. Less being naive to things,
mm.
because things aren't black and white. And as a kid, you think things are. You're learning what the rules are, and you think things are black and white. But when for both of us, we understand as we get older and practice, things are much more complicated, objective, and the that having that directfulness and that um, being intentional really allows you to be more grounded in your faith.
Yeah, I like that word, grounded, grounded in faith. Yeah, in the Tibetan tradition, I found some excerpt that was on the like three things that you would do at the moment of death from the Bardo teachings, and there was like three levels. It's like what the advanced practitioner does, what the middling practitioner does, and or what's called inferior or practitioner of least capacity would do. And I said, of course, for the person in the advanced practitioner, they would die in emptiness. So not taking appearances to be real and taking all appearances to be the Dharmakaya or emptiness. You're liberated from the bardo. But that only applies for a person that has that realization. So the middling, I believe, was um, the the POA practice. So projecting one's mind into the heart of the deity, and then the most basic practice was refuge in the triple gem and the bodhisattva vow. And it's interesting that's considered the most it's the most basic thing. It's because it's the one that most people have access to in that tradition. Everyone's taken precepts, everyone's taken refuge. Everyone understands the triple gem and the bodhisattva vow. But it was saying that really having the wish to save beings from samsara at the moment of death, that wish is enough to put you in the Pure Land.
Yeah,
So
isn't this similar to what is it, Bhakti yoga? Is that what it is? Like which there's a yoga that's just
devotion.
devotion.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, devotion. But there's something about that particular, yeah, that particular wish that, beings be emptied from, or samsara be emptied, or beings be freed.
Mm.
Yeah, I could see how that really like immensely elevates your consciousness at the moment of death. Because that's really what it is. Even the path, like in general, like this conversation started with like, what does it mean to be on the path and be off the path? It means that like if your ordinary consciousness is, discontent and aggravation, self-centeredness, all these things that are just normal for most people or normal for most of us, then what it would mean to be on the path is to just like be like 2 inches, attempt to be 2 inches above that, you know, attempt to give way to something higher than our most basic natures. Yeah, at least in the Buddhist case, he talked about, he was very clear that he only taught, well, when he was asked, what is it, or yeah, when he was asked, what is it that you teach? He said, I teach only two things, suffering and its end. And its end is the Eightfold Path, all of those factors. Yeah, you really have the sense you're off the path when you've lost faith. And grief does have the effect of making you lose faith. What grief does is that it rips from you the faith you used to have, and it puts you in this desert. You're in the desert of your life, and it's like when you're out there, and when you're in that, it feels like all the angels and the masters and the Buddhas, they've all turned their back to you, and like that voice of guidance that was so clear for so long, it's silent. You know, you really feel like you have nothing, and that's the way it's supposed to be. It's easy to have faith when things are going well,
Mm.
but when you're out there in the desert, the idea is that because all the external gods and the ancestors and the masters, they've vanished, it makes you find all of that in in your own self, in your own heart. It's finally in the desert that like you actually turn inward because everything outside of you has left. So that is why I think grief is one of the greatest teachers, because it makes you so hopeless that everything outside of you is also dead, like the thing that you lost. Yeah, I told some people um, back in the day, I don't know, 7 years ago or something. I was like, yeah, when I was going through that period, yeah, sometimes I just lay around and like stare at a wall for a few hours. It was very hopeless, But in the evenings, I'd still cross my legs and straighten my back and watch my breath. And like in the end, I guess people have different qualities that they relied on. Like some people relied on faith, some people relied on love or hope. But for me, it was actually will. Like I crossed my legs, I endured the the burning pain and all the things I subjected my body to. Yeah, it was will. um, and hope for enlightenment. You know, and that was, yeah, that was it. Yeah, like I think we want everything like fast and easy. You know, like if there was a 3-day program for enlightenment, everyone would sign up for it. But I think, yeah, I think so. It was some motivational speaker or something like he's like, what if it's supposed to be hard? Like, what if you're supposed to fail 7 times? What if it's supposed to take a year or 2 years or 3 years to fix your health or to fix your business or to get closer to God? What if it's supposed to be a long haul? Because that's what makes you better. And if that's the case, then you should be for it.
100%.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I guess like my final thought would be, grief can lead to doubt, and doubt is always like you have a cup of water and you put blood, one drop of blood in it. What happens to that blood in that water? Just that one drop plagues that entire water. That's doubt slowly infecting everything. And at a certain point, it's going to either make you or break you. Like you were saying, you had the will to still continue, even once you were fully in the desert of hopelessness. Other people, they let their doubt cave them, and it's over. And so, doubt is part of the path. It's one of the five hindrances. There's a reason for it. I've had doubt before. It comes up. And so just to be mindful within those moments of, okay, I'm having doubt. All the in grief, your teaching will be gone. The teachings, your teacher, your faith is all gone. They're no longer words. What you've been taught about death and life and happiness and love, all gone. There's no more teacher. It's only you in it. Now, are you able to take the teachings and be viscerally it, encompass it in those moments? And once those hindrances come up, doubts, do you know what to do?
Right.
And so just remember that it's all part of the path, and we all go through it. And out of all the things as humans we go through, pain is pain is universal. We all suffer. We all go through it.
Yeah, I like what you said about like the the drop of doubt. It reminds me of the drop of bodhicitta in the heart. In the Tibetan teachings, they say that there's a drop, like an actual uh, non-physical energy source in the heart that is the source of wanting oneself and wanting others to awaken, and that's something that you can connect with. Um, yeah, even when you're in the desert and it's dark, there's never really a moment where you are void of love for for this or for others or for the wish for others to be free. Yeah. I mean, you can forget. I think that's what all the afflictions do. They forget. They make you forget. They uh they empower ignorance like that. It's easy to forget why you started, why you're doing this, why you want to be free, why you want to help others be free. It's easy. It's just easy to forget. All right, man. Well, this was great.
Yeah.
And yeah.
We'll see
So,
you guys on the next one.
yep. See everyone on the next one. So this is our conclusion of on faith, grief, and the desert. Thanks, man. Yeah, it should. I think. I mean, it should be paused.
No, it's still recording.
It was recording the whole